Welcome to Buddhaland podcast. I'm Stacy. This is our season 2 finale, and today it's just me. No other guest, no interview, just a conversation I've been wanting to have with you for a while. I wanted to share something a little bit more personal today. Why I started this podcast, what I really believe about spirituality, and why I think it matters so much right now in the world we're actually living in. It is not a polished report, but some real thinking in process. So let's just slow down for a moment together. I know what you might be thinking. There are already so many podcasts, so many meditation teachers, so many wellness channels, so many people talking about mindfulness, productivity, and personal growth. So why this one? Why Buddhaland? That question kept me up at night, honestly, before I launched. And I think the answer has 3 parts. The first is we talk a lot about technology, business, productivity, but very little about what truly makes us human. If you scroll through any major news feed today, you will see headlines about AI, about markets, about the wealthiest people in the world. Those exist for good reasons. But what I keep noticing, and maybe you notice it too, is that a deeper conversation is somehow missing. The conversation about meaning, about what guides our choices, about what kind of people we actually want to be. Throughout all of human history, that conversation has been the domain of spirituality. It is where our greatest ideas have come from. Our ethics, our art, our understanding of love and suffering, and what it means to be alive. All of it is rooted in something invisible, something interior, and yet we treat it almost like luxury, something you only do on a special retreat or a trip to a sacred place, a moment carved out of your ordinary life, separate from it. And I think a lot of people feel that imbalance, even if they can't quite name it yet. Buddhaland, the community, and this podcast is my ongoing experiment in bringing that conversation back to the center, to make spirituality feel as relevant, as alive, and as urgent as any business or tech discussion, because I genuinely believe it is. The second reason is about whose voices we're hearing. I've spent more than 10 years working in the field of Buddhist art, Buddhism, and spirituality. And over that time, I've observed something fascinating happen over the past few decades. In the early waves, what some call the Remei movement or the broader mindfulness movement, you have Tibetan masters coming to the West, and then monks from Vietnam, Southeast Asia shared their teachings with Western audiences. And those teachings were absorbed, interpreted, and then re-narrated, often by Western scholars, celebrities, or by people with large platforms. And then something interesting happened. Those interpretations started flowing back to the cultures they originally came from. Now I want to be clear, I think that's beautiful in many ways. Cross-cultural exchange is how wisdom gets tested, validated, shared, and remembered. But I also noticed that something was getting a little lost. The origins, the context, the nuances, the voices of people who are living inside these living traditions, not observing them from the outside. So I wanted to create a space for those voices, not necessarily the most famous figures or teachers, but the ones who have spent decades quietly, deeply doing the work. The lineage holder of a lesser-known tradition with thousands of years of history behind it, the entrepreneur weaving ancient wisdom into a project that balances profit and compassion, the artist who sees spirituality as the ultimate pursuit in their practice, but who doesn't make headlines. Most of my guests, you will notice, are not household names globally, but in their communities, in their fields, they're deeply respected. And what strikes me every time I sit down with them is how focused they are, how uninterested they are in being trendy or famous. There is a kind of clarity that comes from not being distracted by recognition. And I think that clarity comes through in our conversations. That's also why it matters to me that many of my guests speak English as their second, third, or even fourth language and choose to tell their own stories in their own words without a filter of an intermediary. Right now, most mainstream information in the world is produced in English, which means certain voices are structurally less heard. My hope is that by bringing this guest to you directly, we make the discourse a little more informed and a lot more diverse. I also want to say something about a concern I hear often and that I take seriously. With so many spiritual teachers, coaches, meditation guides, healers, how do you know who to trust? The spiritual marketplace, if I can call it that way, has become hard to navigate. And some of what is out there is honestly more about commercial success than genuine wisdom. So I want to be transparent about how I choose guests for this podcast. So far, I know every single person I've invited personally. I know their character, their cultivation, and their journey. And I can tell you that they're authentic and genuine. They have been in their field for many years, usually for decades, and they're still studying. That vetting process, that discernment is invisible work. You don't see it in the episode itself, but it's probably the most important thing I do for this podcast because the value of a spiritual conversation depends entirely on the authenticity of the person speaking. I'm always doing my best to bring you voices that are real. I want to take a moment to share the vision behind the name Buddhaland because I think it captures something I haven't said clearly enough. In Mahayana Buddhism, there is this beautiful idea that we can all become Buddhas, and that potential is already in us. And the world around a Buddha, the sphere of their presence and influence, is called a Buddhaland. What I love about this idea is that it's not hierarchical. It's not saying one great teacher sits at the top and everyone else learns from them. It's saying each of us, as we grow, as we become more awake, more compassionate, and wiser, we create a field around us. And when like-minded people come together, these fields overlap and amplify each other. This is what I want Buddhaland to be, not a regular platform or brand, but a good community where the interactions are worth their time, where you leave feeling a little more clear, a little more inspired, a little less alone. Whether you are Buddhist, agnostic, atheist, or something you don't have a word for it yet, you are welcome here. Our conversations have ranged from Tibetan Buddhist masters to Catholic priests, to astrologers, artists, to entrepreneurs. The definition of spirituality here is intentionally wide. What matters is creativity, meaningful connection, and spiritual growth. Now, I want to be honest with you about the pace going forward. After 2 seasons, I've learned that doing this well takes an enormous amount of time. Finding the right guests, studying their work, crafting questions that go somewhere new, making sure every conversation earns your attention. That's not something I want to rush. So moving forward, Buddhaland podcast is going to slow down a little. Instead of a weekly cadence, I'll be working in a more deliberate rhythm, completing each season fully before releasing episodes week by week. You can expect 1 to 2 seasons a year, and I believe they will be better for it. As we grow, as more of you find your way to this community, I hope we can also begin meeting in person. The technology has been wonderful. It has allowed me to speak with people across continents, across time zones, across traditions, but there is something irreplaceable about being in the same room. That is a direction I'd love to move toward. So, as we close season 2, I want to leave you with this thought. We live in a time that is genuinely overwhelming. The pace of change, the volume of information, the weight of global uncertainty is a lot. And I understand the temptation to turn away from all of it, to find a quiet corner and just breathe. But I want to offer you another possibility. What if the practice, the meditation, the reflection, the inner work is not an escape from your life, but the thing that makes you fully capable of living it? What if spirituality is not the retreat from the world, but the thing that gives you the courage and the creativity and the compassion to actually show up for it? That is the question Buddhaland is built around. And I don't think we're anywhere near done exploring it. So join us on a life-changing journey. If there's someone you think we should interview or a topic you'd love to explore, please reach out. You can message us on social media or send us an email. Your ideas will shape where this podcast goes. In the end, I want to thank two people in particular who inspired me to start this podcast. The first is Benjamin Schur, philosopher and founder of the Center on Modernity in Transition, whom more than 2 years ago first suggested I do something about spiritual entrepreneurs. That phrase named something that had been living in me without a clear shape. It gave Buddhaland a concept to grow around, and that seed never left me. The second is Sari Shahal, tech entrepreneur and investor, and someone many of you have already met through one of our episodes, who encouraged me just last year to broaden the scope, to think more expansively about who belongs in a Buddhaland conversation. That nudge is what brought us to the version of this podcast you have been listening to. And of course, all my guests, so many of them are people I've known for years. We don't always stay in close touch, but there is a quality of mutual respect and recognition between us that runs deep and doesn't need frequent contact to stay alive. That they would give their time, their stories, their life wisdom to these conversations. I'm genuinely grateful. And then there's you. Thank you for listening. Thank you for the messages and the feedback. And especially thank you to those who have written to say that what you heard here shifted something in you. That's everything. That's why we do this. Anyway, thank you for being part of this one. I'll talk to you again soon.